Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by acclaimed director DeMane Davis, whose work this year includes the great Max series, The Girls on the Bus, and the excellent NBC drama Found. So very busy. So thank you for making time here. This is great. I guess I wanted to start first with The Girls on the Bus, which is a show I just absolutely love. You directed the seventh episode, which I found it's a really important episode, obviously. So I guess I just to start though, coming into the production at that stage, right, on the seventh episode, I guess what is your process like as a director? And like, how do you kind of like come into this world that is already maybe moving forward, right? Like they've already done many episodes. So how do you kind of like come in?
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here and to chat with you about it. Thanks for calling me acclaimed. Thank you. That's very nice. So my process as a guest director is I'm truly a guest. So, I don't put my feet on the couch. I want to read all of the episodes up until mine, watch the pilot, which I got the chance to, which was awesome. And then sort of think, what can I do a little bit differently to bring out, highlight whatever the narrative is, the stories, the plot points are for these characters. And so for episode 7 of The Girls on the Bus, first of all, I love the series. I have not had the chance to read Amy Chosic's book, but Chasing Hillary, but I wanted to be a journalist when I was growing up. And so I used to write news stories, and then I would force my friends to read them with me, and we record them on my Panasonic tape recorder. And when my brother and sister used to be fighting each other, I would get in the middle of them and be like, "What's going on? Tell me what's happening here." And then I realized I'm an empath, and I was like, "Wow, some of the news is really pretty heavy. I don't think I could do this." So I turned to creative writing a little bit naturally, but so I was really excited to be a part of the series, and it reminds me of, just old movies from the 1970s that I love growing up with, like Network, and just the kind of shows that really have a wonderful voice. And here you're getting four voices. So the challenge I was told for my episode is it's so funny and it's so fast and just crackles, but my episode was the most dramatic up until all the episodes I was told. And so people were like, "You've got to really, your episode's dramatic. So sorry, it's not as funny." And I was like, "No, that's okay. Like I can do that. I love being in that vein." And so what I did is the moments that were funny, I leaned into them a little bit more heavier than I would normally, just to kind of give relief and to help, the ride of the story. But I was really honored to get that script. And to get to work with those actors who are all just spectacular. So thank you for watching it. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
I love that, and it is a really, I mean, like it is a dramatic episode, and I was wanted to ask you like about I like for all the main characters, I think there's a lot of like really big moments that like spring then forward to the final episodes, but especially for like Lola and Natasha, I mean, like you get like her whole backstory basically in this episode and this really emotional scene with Carla Gugino as well at the end. I guess like how did and like you said, like she's been so like that's a character who is like not comic relief, but obviously like funny throughout. So I guess like how do you kind of work with the actors then, especially like that like getting prepared for those big emotions, like to land those emotional beats, I guess.
Yeah. For me, I think that's just about rehearsal, and it's about, with Natasha, she was a little nervous, which likely any, actor that's worth their salt would be for a beat like that. So we just talked about it. I got the room really, really quiet. I did it all with just a slow push in to give her the chance to sort of like put it together, as opposed to, I wanted to make it as easy on her as possible, but also the audience that we're kind of going inside of her thoughts as she reflects on that day and that really tragic event. Um, again, like I was honored to get the opportunity to do it because we'd kind of heard little pieces of it, but didn't hear about what really happened up until then. And so once I decided to sort of do this kind of slow push, that was also easy to reset and go back and do again, then I could really spend the time with, okay, now let's do a bunch of takes. And I always, want an actor to know or to feel like we have all the time in the world to do it, especially with something like this.
Hmm.
And so there were times when she would, she would do it and she would be like, that wasn't any good. And I was like, no, that was great. And also, I will be cutting to Carla as an active listener, and Carla is just one of the best in the business, and she says so much with her eyes and being there for her, and she was an incredible scene partner as well in that moment. Just there every time. She's not an actor who's like, all right, that's your coverage, I'm out. Like she's like she's sitting there, and she kept saying we even changed one of the lines. There was a different word where it was like talk to me or something, and we got permission to say like I'm here, I'm with you. And so once I then told Natasha like there will be points where it's not a oneer, I'm going to cut to Carla, and so then it's pieces, so don't think you have to do the whole thing perfectly, but I wanted to give her the opportunity to do it as one piece so she could like ramp it up and down as she felt. Yeah, that's how we shot it, and she's just wonderful. She's such a talent. And also to get to film, to be one of the few or first series to feature an Iranian American family, and to film her and her parents, it was such a bonus.
Yeah, I love that about, and again, an actor I was not super familiar with, and seeing her in the show, I think she's just like a real
Mhm.
breakout, and like it's really great. You mentioned like getting like in that scene, like maybe getting to change like a line or stuff. Or how closely do you work with the writers, especially as a guest director coming in, and like how important is that collaboration?
Yeah, the writers are everything. I mean, they're creating this material that we have the honor to lens, and it's their baby. So I know that they have certain things that they have in their head. So from the moment I, get there and prep, I'm just asking question after question. And the biggest one is, what's the intent? What's the intent of this scene? How do you want the audience to feel? What's coming after this scene? Is there anything that's coming after that I'm allowed to tell the actor that might inform their performance, or should I not tell them and then can I seed it? Um, and then once they feel good, then it's we can kind of march forward together. I love it when the writer is right next to me and we're kind of going in lockstep. And even I never sit down when I direct. I just put all my crap in my chair and then I run around. Um, Either that or Carla Gugino's dog, Melville, will be in my chair because Melville will sit in the chair. It's an adorable dog. Um, so even when I'm filming, I'll run around and then I'll go back. And one of the first people I check in after the actor, and or the DP, to be like, is that you get it, is the writer, to be like, how are you feeling? Like, so even from across the room, I'll be like, and they'll go, or they'll be like, and I'll run over and I'll be like, what do you want? What do you need? Or I'll inform them, okay, we just shot that. I'm going to go again, but I wanted to push this. And they'll say, oh yeah, push that, which I had a great relationship with, the writer who not wrote this episode, who couldn't come to set, but Kevin Garnett, not the basketball player, who was a writer on set, and we were in lockstep during this. So he was representative of the writer during this process. So, and I love that too, because that energy of like, I shared it with Nkechi Okoro Carol on Found, where I would run off set and I was like, I'm gonna do a thing, and she was like, yeah, if you she should be, and I was like, like this, right? And we're both, and we're like, great, like, and that's very rare. We had that kind of relationship, which is always really cool, that energy.
Yeah. So you mentioned Found. Obviously, that show you get to do the pilot in the first episode. It's a really great procedural, I would call it, right? I think that like, and I really enjoy watching it. I guess like so come in terms of being the pilot director and like
Mhm.
kind of really establishing them what this show is going to be going forward. I mean, like, how do you? That's I'm sure you view that differently, and not that either one is like not that either one is better, but what I mean. I'm sure it's differently than coming in as a guest director. So like, how do you kind of prepare for that and like kind of set like establish like what the show is going to look like in that pilot phase?
Yeah, that's a complete honor to get to do and to get to work with Nkechi. And so, I met with Lindsay Dunn, who runs her company, Rock My Soul Productions, and then I got to meet with Nkechi, and it was after I read the script. And so immediately when I read Found, one of the things that I recalled that I guess I'd never thought about before was, that I've talked about before, is that when I was little, there was a clown that was going around in a van that was snatching children. And one day I saw the van and I saw the guy in the clown costume. And I can remember really clearly what the van looked like. It was like this milk chocolate color. And the guy had, it was a clown suit that tied in the back. So you could see the strings. You could see that he had a white t-shirt underneath it and jeans. And I was across the street by myself and I had a ball in my hands. And I remembered, like, I would say I remembered what the day smelled like. It was like a crisp, like spring day, and the sky was blue. And so I was like, wow, I hadn't thought about that until I read this pilot. Um, if I can think about that and have, like, my heart is pounding remembering that, what do these characters feel like who have all each individually had um, just a harrowing experience, whatever. Not all of their experiences have come out, so I won't say too much, but what are their lives like? And so that to me translated to, well, I guess it would be that even in the daytime, they don't really feel safe, and that there are shadows that are sometimes there in the day. Um, and they would have to do different things to get into a place where they would feel safe. And then that would also translate to Gabby, played by Shanola Hampton. Her office would be like an open office plan, versus something with a lot of doors and a lot of walls so that you could see through it all and feel safe. And so all of these things were things that I spoke to Nkechi about and that she was, immediately responded to. And then those are the things that we kind of went forward with. So there are a lot of shadows. There's a lot of movement because my thought was these characters have to keep moving because if they sit still, then they have to think about what happened to them and what they went through. And so there's an alacrity in what they're doing, not just because they don't want to be, siloed and thinking about it, but they're looking for someone. And so it has to be handheld. So everything is in handheld, which I love. So those are sort of the visual tenets and the thoughts that kind of went into it that I had the privilege to, kind of inject into the pilot and also directing the second episode. And I think that other directors kind of pick up and do their own thing, but that's what's there in series.
And then in the beginning there, are you also working, like you mentioned, like the office and stuff? Are you working like with the production designer and all these different other, like, to kind of like express that vision? So, or like even like with the DP, obviously from like the handheld perspective, like how much of that collaboration are you doing too?
Yeah, totally. I mean, they're interviews, so I'm involved in all the interviews with those people, and certainly in Keiichi having done All American and All American Homecoming, she has her favorites, and so she's bringing people in, and I'm bringing a couple of people in, and we're talking to them, and then we're talking about them afterwards, and even in the interview, they're picking up on things and coming up with thoughts, and we're like, yeah, and we're just throwing out ideas, which again, I just love that creative energy. And then we pick a person, and then we all go forth together and kind of make it, thinking of these are the things that we all kind of agreed upon. So yeah, it's so much fun to be
And
able to
then
do.
just last one then too, in this, because I think it's fascinating. But like you obviously get to, like, these are the performances, like then we're establishing those performances too, right? Like, and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
okay, like, and so like I guess how are you, like, the conversations with the actors and like how you're kind of like, because what people see there in those first two episodes is like they'll obviously grow and change as characters, but like that is like kind of like you're establishing, I guess, the tone of the performances maybe in those
yeah.
first episodes.
Yeah, totally. And so with casting too, we're looking at it and that's it's all an education, right? Because you might have someone in casting who does something that's way different than what you thought. And afterwards, everyone kind of says, yeah, and I don't think that character does that. And then that sort of becomes a thing that we keep as we see audition after audition, or someone does something that we didn't think and we're like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, the character could do that. I remember the character, his name is Don, played by Karen Oberoi. When he came in, he was he's so pent up, and he's like a very close with Gabby and lockstep with her, often the enforcer, and so wound so tight and did such an incredible job. We were like, as soon as we watched, everyone was like, "Yep, yeah, nope, he's it. We're done looking." I remember when he came to set. I thought that was him. And I remember thinking like, okay, I'm gonna have to like kind of play it cool and like be a little bit back because he's, this is kind of a guy who's gone through some stuff and he was just like a super fun, goofy, like regular dude. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, acting. Like he's an actor. Like he really he did that. Like he convinced me. So
That's
it was
awesome.
kind of cool.
Do you have, like, you've obviously done so much different, so many different shows, and like I said, we claim many different shows, many great shows that people have seen. I guess, are you, and this, I love that Girls on the Bus is obviously something like a streaming show, maybe for, like, for Max certainly, and then found like on NBC. Is there a difference for you in the way it's being just like, is there a difference between like a streaming show, I guess, or like a network show, or like, do you view that differently at all? Is there just like kind of like you're looking at the material, or do you approach it differently because you know, maybe people have expectations on what a show on NBC looks like versus what they would say on Max?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, the material dictates it, of course. Certainly something streaming might be a bit more explicit, have more swears or more sort of controversial concepts. Um, but for me, drama is drama for sure. I love to inject some visual things that you might not see into a network show, and vice versa in streaming. Like, sometimes you'll watch a show and it's all about this big, beautiful, wide master and featuring that. And I want that too, but I've got to see the faces, like I've got to get I feel like when you do a close up, you're close to that person, and it just really helps you think about what they're thinking and where they are. So, that's a default for sure, whether it's network or it's streaming. And then it's time, you'll have less time for sure
Right.
in network.
Yeah. And then what do you, I know I think you are working on Dr. Wolf, I believe. What else do you have? What do you have coming up next, I guess, for,
Yeah, so Dr. Wolf, which has been renamed, it's now
okay,
called Brilliant Minds,
great.
and it's a NBC show by Berlanti, executive produced by Greg Berlanti and showrunner Michael Grassi, and it's about Dr. Oliver Sacks, the neuroscientist. So, I remember watching Awakenings, and I remember I never knew that there was a person behind it. I don't know if I was cognizant of that until much later, but that doctor, it was prolific, written so many books, and such an incredible character. Zachary Quinto plays him. And so we're in a hospital in Bronx General, and he's got interns that he wants nothing to do with. And I think he's being that doctor that everybody really wants. He cares so much about his patients. He wants them to be well and find a way for them to move forward no matter what's going on with their brains. And the brain is such a vast landscape that we don't know anything about, but he knows a lot about it. And he's really down to give his patients a really great quality of life, no matter what the outcome may be. And so when I look at it, I think like, oh, if a bunch of people watch it and, maybe number one, go to the doctor when they probably should have, but haven't, or just be like, oh, that's how I'd like my doctor to be like that. And so they ask more questions or they try to seek out a doctor who cares a little bit more than the average doctor does. I think that'll be a great thing. So I'm really excited about it. It'll be on NBC in September, and
Nice.
we're right in the middle of production.
And then Found season two, I'd imagine maybe, and then also maybe Girls on the Bus season two, hopefully, right? I guess who knows?
Yes,
Fingers
hoping. I
crossed.
mean, I would love to see where those characters go, and I haven't read any other scripts other than episode 7. I did watch episode 8. I like to, as soon as I film my episode, I like to be a viewer. I want to be
Nice.
an audience member. I don't want any spoilers. I tell everyone asks me, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm a very good secret keeper. So I don't say anything about my episodes until after they air. But I like to watch with everyone else and live tweet or, watch with friends and ooh and ah and throw something at the TV set to
Well, I will not spoil it for you, but I've seen the finale and it is great. So hopefully,
oh my God, we have to talk after.
we
I'm
will.
not
Okay.
okay.
But for now,
Great.
DeMane
Okay.
Davis, thank you so much for doing this. Girls on the Bus, you can watch her episode and on Max and NBC Drama Found. You can stream also on Peacock. DeMane Davis.
Yes. Thank you so much, Christopher. Such a pleasure.